Greetings everyone. Today I will talk about palette and terrain palette, which can be used in the warehouse material. Palettes used to make same objects look different. As I said earlier, there are two kinds of palette. The first one I call just a palette. Let's open an object. Palette map should be assigned to the first layer of warehouse composite material instead of the surface color map. Palette map stored next to the source file of the object. Open it. Map is 256 pixels width and 4 pixel height. 4 pixels is requirement of the minimum size of texture. The map itself is a stripe of different colors. Objects will be colored randomly according to these colors. Now I will add special flag to the object for the exporter to know that this object uses palette as color map. It can be done in two ways. First, select object, right-click, choose Object Properties, then choose User Define. Add param shader define equals use color palette. The second way, use special tool called Set Model Properties that will exclude any errors. Select Object Geometry and select the desired option. Close. Launch Viewer. If everything done correctly, the color palette will be automatically switching on the object. After the scene build, color of that car will be randomly chosen from the palette. Now the second type of palette, the terrain palette. Unlike the previous method, this palette is a common palette for the entire project and not a single object. It's stored in folder Source, Terrain Palette. First of all, I need to declare Terrain Palette map to the terrain config file and build texture archive. Right-click on category VFS Textures and choose Add Texture Archive. Name archive Terrain Palette. And add to that archive Terrain Palette texture. Now I need to build texture archive for the palette got into the terrain. Open Terrain Palette in the editor. The requirements for the Terrain Palette should be PNG or BMP of minimum size 4 pixels and 24 bit. That map is a set of palettes. Every row is a separate palette. Open Object. This object has an ordinary surface color map. Unlike the first palette, Terrain Palette does not replace surface color, but blends with it. There is a special mask that allows to control distribution and intensity of Terrain Palette blend with the surface color of the object. Open the Unique Masks map of current object. R channel Ambient Occlusion, G channel Decal Mask, B channel Fabric Self-Illumination Mask, Alpha channel Terrain Palette Mask. I've made the mask previously. White colored elements in the mask will not be painted with palette. Black color will be colored with palette. The percentage of black color sets the intensity of mixing. Now I need to specify what line of the palette I want to use for this object. Line numbering goes from top to bottom and starts from 0. I have chosen line number 6. Open the object for which I want to assign Terrain Palette. Launch Set Model Properties tool. Choose the object geometry. Palette V corresponds to the Terrain Palette line number. -1 param means that Terrain Palette to this object is not applied. Set number 6. Here I can check the TerrainPalette param. Shader Define param is not needed. Launch Viewer. The object changing color according to the palette mask. I have made a small scene to check the final result. The same object with different color. Both palette methods are relevant, but the benefits of TerrainPalette are clear. That's all. Thanks for watching.